Welcome to the LSU Sports Insider, brought to you by the journalists at The Advocate, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. Perryn Keys here hanging out with, it's a three-person panel. We're back to our original format with Scott Rabalais, our venerable longtime columnist in the middle, and of course Reed Darcey here, our LSU women's basketball writer and LSU beat writer to our far right on your screen. Gentlemen, welcome in. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm just gonna start off this show by saying I've only on my X account, formerly known as Twitter. There's a mechanism by which you can mute certain words and terms, and I only have maybe like a half a dozen. One of them is Bachelorette and The Bachelor. I just don't want to see any of that nonsense on my timeline. If it's for you, great, but it's not for me. A couple of musicians who I'm not particularly fond of, don't care about. It's just not for me. If it's for you, that's fantastic too. But another one of those terms is Met Gala, and it has been that way for several years. And if you would have given me every dollar that is circulating out there in the United States economy to bet that we would never have brought up the Met Gala on the LSU Sports Insider podcast, I would have taken that bet. And watch what happens now. So here we are. We're gonna discuss.
Sometimes I underestimate how famous Angel Reese is.
We're going to get into that.
It's a good point. It's hard. It's easy to forget.
That is the top topic for this week. We will also, of course, get into not only Angel Reese's big week, but the LSU women's basketball program retooling and revamping. We're getting close to the Paris Games too, the Paris Summer Olympics, and as always, Louisiana has will likely have a pretty meaty contingent going to the Summer Olympics, but LSU in particular already has a few athletes qualified for the Summer Games, with a few more here to come, and so we will get into that as well. And of course, LSU baseball at Alabama. We know the Tigers have work to do. They had a big weekend last weekend, taking 2 out of 3 from Texas A&M, and they had to fight to rally to beat Northwestern State in their final midweek game on Tuesday. So Alabama's coming up, followed by Ole Miss. We'll see what the Tigers can do in terms of making sure that they get into Hoover and possibly getting in to the NCAA regionals. But first, a little bit of business, as always. If you're tuning in or listening, you already know that The Advocate's always been the #1 destination for LSU sports coverage. So please, if you haven't joined the party, join the party now. Subscribe to The Advocate, and to do that, of course, you go to theadvocate.com/subscribe. And as always, as evidenced by our list of topics today, there's always something, and more than one thing usually going on campus at LSU. There's always plenty to try to catch up on and stay up to date with. And so to do that, you can do it all in one place by getting our LSU newsletter. To do that, you sign up at theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. That way you get all our headlines sent straight to your phone, to your desktop, to your inbox, including breaking news. When it's important to send out some breaking news alerts. So we will see what happens next. But until then, we will be here on the LSU Sports Insider every Monday and Thursday, as per usual, here live every Monday and Thursday. And we're on all our social channels, specifically the YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. If you search for LSU Tigers on NOLA.com on that YouTube channel, you should be able to find it. You should be able to subscribe, and that way you'll never miss an episode. You'll catch us live. And if you don't catch us live, you can always catch us after the fact. So please subscribe to that channel. Or if you like to get your podcast in a more traditional way, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever other finer podcasts are found. Just search for LSU Sports Insider. Okay, so gentlemen, Angel Reese has obviously left campus. She's gone on to bigger and better things. Selected first round, of course, in the WNBA draft by the Chicago Sky. And she's had a big week. Her preseason opener, her first game as a first exhibition as a pro basketball player, was Friday. On Monday, she jets out on a private plane to the Met Gala in New York, where she wows the crowd on the red carpet. And then the very next night, on Tuesday, 13 points in 19 minutes against the New York Liberty. So it's been a big week already, and she has not played an actual official game yet. So, first things first, just as you said, Reed, this is maybe it's easy to, and we'll get into this a little bit deeper later on too, but maybe it's a little bit easy to forget that Angel Reese, I keep going back to this term, and I know I've probably overused it, but international superstar. Mm-hmm. You said it, man. It's hard to underestimate just what an international superstar she has become. She is part of, American pop culture. She really is.
Yeah, and you're starting to see, I think, now that she's a professional and she sort of doesn't have to worry about school or class, it sort of frees up more time to do this kind of stuff for her, like go to the Met Gala. She's talked a lot about how she wants to, get into the fashion industry, get into do more modeling, and I think as she progresses with her WNBA career, she's going to have more time to do that. I think she just announced today a partnership with some sort of fashion brand where she has her own line of denim clothing, I believe, something like that. So she's really starting to grow her off the court brand. In addition to what she is doing in the W, and the W. Her W season starts pretty soon. The first game is Wednesday, so we're all looking forward to watching that and seeing how she does.
Rab, what did your financial portfolio look like at 21 years old?
Not like that.
This really is extraordinary, though, isn't it? She did this at LSU, but one of the many reasons she was in the news, just a little nugget of news, but she's going to make sure that all her teammates get a set of Beats headphones, because that's obviously a brand that she's partnering with.
She did that at LSU, even with the men's basketball team.
Right? Yeah, she sent some to the men too. Yeah. So being a good teammate, just like Livy Dunn is, of course, making sure that everybody gets a taste of what she's got to offer. But listen, the popularity of Angel and Caitlin Clark and Camila Cardozo, who incidentally her teammate, who is Sky teammate now, who of course is. Bad break for her. She's injured. She'll be out for probably a good 10, 12, 13 games. But nonetheless, these are all superstars who have come into the WNBA. And we seemingly have entered a new era, not only for the WNBA, but for players like Angel, who, as I said, are part of pop culture.
Yeah, this is going to be the interesting part to me. Obviously, they're great basketball players, but is the following, the fervor, the intense interest in these young ladies like Angel and Caitlin, Camilla, and whoever else you want to mention, is that going to follow them from college basketball to the WNBA? I think that's one of the things we may have talked about on this podcast, or I've written about, or whatever. Is like is Angel going to go pro or not? Is Caitlin going to go pro or not? Well, it might. A factor might be. There's more exposure in college basketball. There are more games. There's more chance to be on television. The ratings have been better, and we've seen early on with some just these preseason games the intense interest. Are they going to continue to have generate the same endorsement dollars in the WNBA that they did with NIL in college? Because it was such a new thing, right? We're like, how is this going to keep working? And early on, it looks like it will, and the intense interest is there. To that end, let me say the WNBA appears to have dropped the ball turned it over out of bounds,
yes,
as it were.
We will get to that. Well, go ahead. Bring it up.
I'm just, this. I know it's preseason games and all that, but they seem completely underprepared to offer up even the potential for people to watch and pay more attention. Angel Reese's first preseason game, some fans sat in the stands and streamed it, and they got over 400,000 views.
Just on Twitter, one fan's live stream on Twitter.
One fan's live stream just on Twitter was 170,000 live while the game was going on. Subsequently, it got bumped. 3 days, 3 days after the fact, or whatever, it wound up being 440. Perform, Perryn. 434,000 views.
Yep.
They're up that one feed. Mm-hmm. People have gone back. I'm sure they haven't watched the game start to finish, but nonetheless, somebody has checked in on it almost 1 million times now.
And that's great and that's cool in its own way. But the WNBA should have been better prepared for this eventuality. Or it's like, hey, you like them in college, you're going to love them in the WNBA.
Cardozo won a 23 national championship. Angel Reese won Cardozo won a 22 national championship. Angel won a 23 national championship. Oh, no, I got that right.
Cardozo won this year.
Yeah,
and then
this year.
Caitlin played for the last two
two national champions. I'm all over the place today. But these are two back-to-back reigning national champions with huge social followings and things of that nature. And Tanya Ramirez, our great deputy sports editor, she came in on Friday saying, I can't believe this game's not on anywhere. And I will be perfectly honest with you. Until she said that, I just sort of assumed that I was going to be able to click on ESPN Plus or something like, hey, this is, what the world we're living in now. It's, you can get North Texas volleyball on ESPN Plus or whatever.
Right.
So you just assume it's going to be somewhere. And sure enough, it wasn't. And boy, yeah, it sure looks for everything like they dropped the ball, and it sure looks for everything based on a conversation actually I had with somebody who would seemingly be in the know, if you can believe this, about WNBA and inner workings and everything. It sure sounded for everything like they're saying the right things about being ready, but behind the scenes, I think the term "mad scramble" would be certainly in play right now.
Friday night, I was covering a high school playoff baseball game in Santa Monica, and there were more broadcast streams for that game than there were for Angel Reese's preseason debut. There were 2 streams for that game in the press box, 2 different broadcast crews.
Which doesn't entirely surprise me that there are multiple ways people can watch a high school baseball playoff game, in Louisiana, where it's a big sport. But just like you're trying to grow the sport and gain market share and improve everything, and it's like, and we've seen some of this. Some of the teams are like, oh, we need to move this game to the bigger arena. And I know the Las Vegas Aces, where Nikki Fargas, former LSU coach, is the team president. They moved from their traditional arena to a bigger arena,
to T-Mobile,
to the
Vegas Golden Knights play,
the NHL arena. When Indiana and Caitlin Clark come to play, smart move,
right?
But that's by a team. This is I'm talking about the WNBA overall.
Well, right.
Being prepared.
And Angel, there's a story up on Angel and the whirlwind week she's had. It's up at ESPN.com, and she said, I haven't gone back to check this, but Angel herself said that obviously Baltimore native, and they call it the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. That's as close as she's going to get to home. She said that when the Sky go play, the Washington Mystics, that they're going to move to the Wizards Arena, what used to be called the MCI Center downtown. So that's more than just one case of that happening. So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, those are good moves. I'm not saying they're doing everything bad, but this seems like more moves by the individual franchises. Now the WNBA overall, there should be a better cohesive overall strategy. Like, hey, remember them? You could watch them here. I mean, I would have watched Angel Reese play. I had no idea to go look in the stands with their phone.
And there has been some intrigue as to whether her and Caitlin, all the vets kind of want a piece of the young rookie, and is her offensive game developed and stuff like that. So I don't mind telling you, I was curious to see. I think she's going to have a place in the game for a long time, if for no other reason than the fact that you always need a good rebounder, and she's one of the best offensive rebounders there is.
And just to highlight some positive developments as well, instead of piling on here, WNBA, they're going to have charter flights this season, which is a big deal. It's first time in league's history that every team is going to be using charter flights. That's a real positive development for the players and the teams. There are videos, videos from a couple weeks ago of Caitlin Clark just walking through the airport. Of course, she's surrounded by security, and fans are coming up to her, like taking videos of her. And it's like, all right, this is not, these players are too famous for this. They've outgrown flying commercial. They can. Right. So the charter flights is going to help a lot. They're working on a new TV deal. They're trying to get a new broadcast deal, and then supposedly that's going to be for a much larger sum of money than the previous one, and that will help raise the salary cap, raise the level of pay for these players. So there are positive developments, in terms of expansion as well. There's rumored to add a couple more teams in the next few years. That will help the roster crunch, the overall size of the league. So there are positive developments that players like Angel and Caitlin are helping the league get to, that are sort of long overdue, that they're sort of helping drive the league forward.
And Disney /ABC/ESPN have noticed this. They're for years and years and years, you were never going to see even the finals, you were never going to see the WNBA on ABC, on big ABC. And that does happen now too. So, and you're right. The notion, I don't mind telling you guys, I was kind of just shocked and amazed that ESPN and whoever else is catching Caitlin Clark just coming out of the airport terminal. You're perp walking your biggest superstar, or one of your biggest superstars, and this, let's not do that, right? So this is going to be interesting to watch. I think we're all going to be at least keeping a half an eye on this as we go down the road. I'll certainly be tuning in, and we'll keep everybody up to date, obviously, on how Angel's going to do. And it's something else, and it's not for nothing, but it's kind of nice to have somebody who's got a local tie, who's back in the WA making waves, because obviously LSU had Simone Augustus and Sylvia Fowles all that time, and There was always a reason to sort of keep tabs on the Minnesota Lynx and whoever else. And so now as those careers have reached their end, you've got another headliner.
Teresa Plaisance as well. She won a WNBA title or two.
I'm sorry?
Teresa Plaisance.
Teresa Plaisance.
Won a couple of
Christy
WNBA
Sides, Louisiana native, who's coaching in the WNBA, coaching Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, a Louisiana Tech grad. And incidentally, that brings us to one of our next topics, which is another La Tech legend, who is Angel Reese's coach, Teresa Weatherspoon. I think we're all pretty familiar with Teresa. She obviously spent some time on the New Orleans Pelicans staff and was one of the, not for nothing, but she was one of the players one of the coaches who Zion really, really respected and wanted to make proud and things of that nature. And again, this probably should not come as any kind of surprise, but Teresa Weatherspoon played for Kim Mulkey at La Tech. WNBA legend, 4-time champion with the Comets, 5-time All-Star, in the Naismith Hall of Fame, says everything you need to know. And so that's Angel's coach up in Chicago. And she has said that she feels right at home with Teresa, feels like a mother. And again, this is not going to be a surprise because Teresa, in many respects, Teresa and Kim are kind of cut from the same cloth. Strict disciplinarian. We're not going to let you get away with any nonsense. As our own former deputy sports editor Raina Kemp can tell you, Raina played for Teresa at La Tech, and so this feels like she said it's the perfect place for her to be. She kind of has to say that because you're not going to say I can't believe what a short stick I got here, but certainly on the surface this looks like a good place for her to wind up.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a story up on theadvocate.com next week. Just about Teresa Weatherspoon and how she's gotten to this point and how she's sort of been influenced by Leon Barmore and Kim Mulkey. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, she followed Kim Mulkey at Louisiana Tech. It was her job to fill the shoes of Kim Mulkey after Kim Mulkey graduated, and so that was no easy task. Let's just say that. And so she was sort of forged in the same fires that Angel Reese, was formed in because. She played for Kim Mulkey and Leon Barmore, and so Leon Barmore influenced Kim Mulkey. It's sort of she sort of coaches like as much as Leon Barmore as she can today. So Angel Reese grew up in that same environment, that sort of that same coaching ethos that Teresa Weatherspoon was sort of coached in when she was at Louisiana Tech. So they both know exactly what to expect from each other, I think, because they were sort of raised in those same environments. And so that's why I think it's such a good fit.
And Teresa, I thought it was, Teresa in many ways, like Kim, yet again in this respect where she's as old school a coach as there can possibly be. Raina used to tell us all the stories about how, she would just crush them in practice, along the lines of like, well, you're not going to die in practice. You'll pass out before you die. Keep going. And so, you're not going to take anything off of Teresa. That's, seemingly Angel has responded to hard coaching from Kim Mulkey before, and seems to thrive on that. But also I think it's a credit to Teresa and to Kim that they have found a way, maybe because they recognize that this is serious business. Basketball is still serious business to her. She's still trying to get this career off the tracks, but Teresa allowed Angel to leave practice early on Monday, take a private plane to the Met Gala, and come back and play a game. A lot of old school coaches, and maybe she understands that this is this is sort of the deal. This is the modern deal with modern athletes, but nonetheless. For her to have that understanding and for them to have that understanding already right away that she's going to be doing multiple things and she is going to continue to be capable of doing multiple things. I think that was very, very interesting and certainly a good sign for Angel and Teresa for that matter.
Mm-hmm. If people are up in arms about that, I think they're maybe not taking maybe the modern view, and I have to be drag kicking and screaming into the modern view sometimes myself, but people are criticizing Angel for going to this. It's still preseason for one thing, and second of all, she's shown a great ability to compartmentalize at LSU. You know, to do the modeling and the endorsements and the photo shoots and still play. If you
is there any question about whether Angel's playing hard on the floor?
No,
or not?
if you sell her competitiveness short, you do so at your peril because she. You can't watch her play and see that ability to go for the second, the third, the fourth rebound on one possession and not think that she's always playing hard. So I think people are kind of it's wrong to look at Angel Reese through the old school lens. You have to look at her through the new school lens, and I think they've shown that's showing early on that they're handling her in the right way, and I think she'll respond in kind, with the kind of effort that you want to see when it's time to tip the ball up. She's going to be there, 100%.
Speaking of which, you were discussing how this may be, it appears for everything that the WNBA is on the precipice of a big sort of breakout, and we discuss how Angel really is that big of an international celebrity. She said again, also at this on the story that was up on ESPN.com, she expects to see Usher courtside. They met at the Met Gala, or they talked at the Met Gala. They knew each other previously. Same with Cardi B. They obviously know each other, having worked together before. And so she expects that they'll be courtside, that this is going to be, this will be a place. This is not just the old time. This is not like back in the 80s, Rab, which you remember, where it was, the celebrities only showed up for the Lakers games courtside at the old Forum. This is going to be a thing. She said, I know some people y'all might think I don't know. Which is, listen, it's obviously true. And she's at the Met Gala. But, again, in that same story, it was telling, and it sort of goes back to what we say, which is, hey, you hitting the clubs after, where we partying after the Met Gala? She's like, man, I'm taking this plane back and I'm watching film on the ride home. I got stuff to do. And Reed, you mentioned this, you touched on this. You had a great story during the season about Flau'jae and about how she is every bit the multitasker. She leaves, gets on a bus that takes her to a plane to go do a show in Atlanta, and comes right back. This is a new day, and so far these two young ladies are two of many who are showing that yes, no, I can have a career doing this, and I can have a career doing that, and I can be really, really good at both of them.
Yep, and I've got the time, and I'm going to make the time, and like Angel said, she's going to maximize her 24 hours. It's sort of like just shows you how hard they work. I couldn't imagine doing all that, having all that on my shoulders, and doing all that in the span of 24 hours. But it's her moment, and she's gonna spend her time how she wants to spend it.
But doesn't all this speak again to the challenge that women still face in the sports world or the professional world? That Michael Jordan going off doing a shoe commercial with Spike Lee or a McDonald's commercial with Larry Bird or something like that. No one thought twice of it, but oh my God,
he endorsed everything too.
Yeah. But Clutch the Pearls, Angel Reese went to the Met Gala, or Angel Reese did this, and it's like, women can multitask too, and still be effective competitors and still give their all to their team in a way that you never even thought about that with Michael Jordan or Larry Bird or pick an athlete, pick a male athlete, and it's all this stuff with Caitlin Clark and Angel and Kim Mulkey, and it's like all of a sudden these are as prominent athletes, as you said, pop culture and in society and the sports landscape as there are, rivaling any and all men's athletes you want to think about for that kind of attention and scrutiny, certainly, and that comes with it. More scrutiny comes with more fame comes with more scrutiny, but it's like, this is an adjustment period, and these women are at the cutting edge of this. And of course, people unfortunately kind of get beat up when they're on the cutting edge of things like this.
Brad, I got to say it's an excellent point. One, frankly, that I maybe did not think all the way through until you said something about it, but it makes all the sense in the world. Would you have been surprised? Nobody was surprised if and when Michael Jordan showed up at ringside at a prize fight, or decked out in his tux at the Oscars or some such, whatever it is. And to take it a little bit farther, this is a little bit apples and oranges, but how many times we heard, when you're talking about a team, an athletic team of male athletes, there are two teams in Las Vegas now, the Raiders and the Vegas Golden Knights. Well, the Golden Knights might have got this visiting team and beat them and upset them because, especially in the Golden Knights' first year when we didn't realize how good they were, because of the Vegas flu. The visiting team came in that night, had a good old time out there on the Strip, and paid the price for it the next day. It didn't exactly play in tip-top shape. Or the French Quarter flu, which I'm sure the Pelicans have benefited from sometimes, if not more than once. So nobody really was surprised when something like that would happen. And again, we were talking about male athletic teams, and hey, they got ripped, last night. Nobody really knows about it, but guess what? Well, hey, boys will be boys, or something to that effect. Maybe I'm taking that a little bit too far, but I'm not entirely sure that I am. The party scene is alive and well in men's sports and men's leagues wherever we go, and so really, in some ways,
it's a double standard, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly right. And in some ways, in a lot of ways, how is this different? If anything, Angel is showing that she's more responsible, or attempting to be more responsible, by not going out to party in New York after the Met Gala and taking that private plane home and not, as I say, getting ripped. She had business and she's just getting her career started. So good for her for staying on business. This is the LSU Sports Insider, brought to you by the journalists at The Advocate, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. You know where to find all our writers' great work. That's at theadvocate.com and NOLA.com. Please subscribe if you have not joined the party. As I said, we don't get ripped either. We bring it every day. We're professionals. So please stay with us, support your local journalists, and subscribe if you have not. Go to theadvocate.com/subscribe, whether that's in print or digital. Please subscribe to the LSU newsletter. It's a daily newsletter. Rab handles that personally 3 times a week. You can get all the latest headlines delivered straight to your inbox, to your phone, to your desktop. That way you don't have to go searching all over the internet for LSU headlines. You get all the best coverage and the latest coverage sent straight to your inbox.
Because who covers LSU better than us?
That's
right?
correct.
More completely.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Nobody covers the Advocate. Nobody covers LSU like the Advocate does, and that's always been the case, of course. So sign up for our LSU newsletter. Go to theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. Here on the LSU Sports Insider, we are here every Monday and Thursday. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever other finer podcasts are found. Just please search for LSU Sports Insider and subscribe. Follow along. And we're here on all our social channels, specifically the YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. Please search for LSU Tigers on NOLA.com on YouTube. Should be able to find our channel. Subscribe. You can catch us live. You'll catch us every episode. And if you don't catch us live, of course, you can catch us after the fact on that same YouTube channel. So moving along a little bit, we're still talking women's basketball. We talked about this, I guess, last week, Rab, but this is our first chance to discuss it with you, Reed. LSU brings in 3 transfer guards, in addition to having already had Jersey Wolfenberger, who they got committed during the season, during the postseason. And so that's 4 transfers in addition to Jada Richard, who's coming in from Lafayette Christian. It's a revamped look. It's not a total rebuild, but it is as you would suspect every year, a reshaping of the LSU
You call
roster.
it a retool.
Retool. And this may, we don't know yet, but this may, because you don't necessarily have superstars you're trying to force into a new position and things of that nature, they may come out ahead on this. We don't know yet, but if you would just sort of go down, give us 15 seconds on each of these 3 guards coming in and what they may or may not be able to do for LSU.
First one is Cheyenne Day Wilson. She started her career at Duke, then transferred to Miami, spent 1 season there, and now she's at LSU. She's a rising senior. She's the most experienced guard out of the bunch. She started 71 career games. That's more than the other LSU guards combined. More career starts. I think she's probably, if I ran a sports book, I would probably give her the best odds to start right away, just because she's got the experience. And she's also a really good shooter. Last year she shot around 37, 38% on her 3-pointers, took about 5 a game. I think overall half of her total field goal attempts were threes. So that's going to be a positive thing for LSU to have a point guard who can really space the floor and knock down catch and shoot threes. So I think that's probably what she'll bring to the table, and she'll, can sort of play make and sort of space the floor off of Flau'jae Johnson and Michaela Williams and Anissa Morrow, and just let them be the main engines of offense and sort of space the floor. So I think LSU fans are gonna like her. Her shooting mechanics are really clean, really consistent base, really repeatable form. So yeah, I think she's gonna be good. Kaylin Gilbert, she is a rising junior. She spent 2 years at Arizona. She scored about 15 points a game, but she shot only like 42%. She was Arizona's leading scorer. She always had the ball in her hands. She did a lot of her scoring off the dribble. At LSU, she's going to have to tailor her game to become more of a complementary scorer, I think, especially if she comes off the bench. Maybe you could see her sort of lift up those bench units and provide that spark off the bench. Then there's Miracle Shepherd. She's a rising sophomore from Mississippi State. Really long, really active defender.
Yes.
You can tell, I think Kim Mulkey is going to like how she defends. Against LSU, she had 5 steals, I think, when Mississippi State beat LSU in January. She had 5 steals in 4 games of her freshman year, so she's really long. She's really good at getting in the passing lanes and getting deflections and causing turnovers. So it's sort of like when you take the 3 of those guards, they sort of all bring a sort of a different type of game to LSU. And so Kim Mulkey and her staff, when they sort of figure out the rotation closer to the season, they're going to have a lot of different tools to work with there. And so there's a lot of versatility, a lot of different skill sets that they provide.
So we know that 4 of LSU's 5 presumed starters next year are just about as good as you could ever hope for. Anissa Morrow, Flau'jae Johnson, Michaela Williams, Samaya Smith. We presume Samaya Smith will be back in the starting lineup. The big $1 million question, though, of course, is who plays point guard and how does that backcourt shake out? It certainly seems like it's going to be a lot deeper. And perhaps, again, just as you say, maybe the roles are a little bit better defined. Let's just call it what it is. You don't have Haley Van Lith playing out of position, an experiment that kind of worked but kind of didn't. So what does the backcourt look like?
Well, I think, like I said, probably if I had to guess right now, Cheyenne Day-Wilson is probably the favorite to start just because of her experience. But you can't forget about last year Poa. Last year Poa is still on the roster. So it wouldn't totally shock me if she's the starter from day one because she's got the experience in Kim Mulkey's system. Right? Kim Mulkey spent a lot of time talking about this year. Haley Van Lith, she had a lot of college experience, but she didn't have experience in Kim Mulkey's system. Mm-hmm. And that really comes into play when you really ask them to defend, and if you can't defend, according to Kim Mulkey's principles, and if you can't fit into that sort of defensive approach, then it's going to be tough for you to get a prominent role in the rotation. And so I think last year Poa, what she has working for her, she's not going to shoot the ball as efficiently as Cheyenne Day-Wilson, but she will defend, and she does have the experience in Kim Mulkey's system. Next year will be her 3rd year in it. So one of the most experienced players on the roster, one of the only 2 or 3 players who are left from the national championship team. So you can't forget about her. She's going to be in line for a big role, whether she starts or comes off the bench. And I think she'll have to compete with Kaylin Gilbert and Miracle Shepherd for minutes.
Such an interesting way LSU has filled the holes on this year's roster compared to last year's. Last year, they signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country, led by Michaela Williams and Aaliyah Del Rosario and Angelica Velez, who's now transferred to
Syracuse.
Thank you. And then, of course, you brought in the top 2 transfers in Haley Van Lith and Anissa Morrow. This year, you got Jada Richard, who's the Louisiana Gatorade Player of the Year, but they went after these top 5 players and didn't get any of them, the top 5 recruits in the country, and everybody's like, oh, they got shut out, and that's true. But they have stars returning, not Angel Reese, obviously, but Flau'jae Johnson, who we saw just really played. You could say she played better than anyone in the postseason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
On LSU's team. Michaela Williams, who should be even better. And let's not forget Samaya Smith. She was looking really good before she got hurt.
Like she was just about to turn that corner.
In the pre-conference play, and Anissa Morrow is an All-American. And so you have star power on the team. So what did they lack last year? Well, good consistent point guard play and bench scoring. How many games did they get? They got nothing or next to nothing off the bench offensively. Yep. They're going to go. I mean, Reed, is it? You think is it unrealistic to expect that they're going to play 8 or 9 players next season?
Yeah, I think the rotation, in terms of the number of players that they use, it's probably going to be about the same because Kim Mulkey wants to use 8 or 9 players regardless of the depth she has on her roster. Once you get an SEC play, that's how it's going to shake out. But the hope is that you don't lose 2 of your scholarship players sort of at the start of the season.
Right.
So
which is what happened this year.
Yeah, which is what happened last year. So if that doesn't happen this year again, then they'll have a much deeper team. But again, they're hovering right around the same number of scholarship players they had at the start of last year. So if you lose 2 of those players, then you're right in the same boat.
Yeah, Kateri Poole is the other player. We're referring to. Say, if everyone stays healthy and is able to keep going throughout the season, there's no reason this can't be another Final Four contending team once again, especially those players, like I said, particularly Flautier and Michaela continue to blossom. But just got to get some score. They never had a game. They never had a game last year where you had, they got 23 points off the bench or anything like that. Never.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And what was the big difference between them and South Carolina? South Carolina just brought a second wave in of players, and they just kept going. So it's going to be interesting to see in, of course, this newly expanded SEC where Oklahoma comes in as off a Big 12 championship, and Texas comes in off a Final 8 run as well. It's going to be even. Newsflash: the SEC is going to be really tough this year in a sport, in women's basketball. And South Carolina will they be the preseason number 1?
I'd imagine so.
Probably so, yeah. So, but LSU will be in the top 10 there somewhere, I would imagine, and
just
deserve
because you
ranking.
start as preseason number 1 does not mean you finish there.
That
as
is
we
for
saw.
sure. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's as we continue to sort of go around the horn. Between now and basketball season, between now and football season, there's going to be a fairly large event happening off in Paris, France. And as usual, LSU and Louisiana.
Amanda, cue the Olympic fanfare, please. No, we'll add that in later.
Yeah. As usual, LSU and Louisiana will should have a pretty healthy contingent of athletes who are going to the Paris Games. We know that Kristen Nuss and Perryn Keys, the two beach volleyball tandem. From LSU, they were already headed to Paris, and as we've discussed, they'll be playing them, with the best backdrop in the world, maybe even of all time, right behind the Eiffel Tower. Mondo Duplantis, of course, representing Sweden, but obviously born and raised in Lafayette, LSU guy, world record holder in the pole vault. There is no chance that he won't be in Paris, and we assume, as you rightly said, Rab, we assume. Maggie McNeil from Canada, the swimmer in the 100 fly, attempting for a repeat gold medal. She is not qualified yet, but that is really just a little more than a formality back home in Canada for her. So who else is on the docket? Who's coming up?
Real quick, Rab, I don't think you're very excited for this. You're not really looking forward to this, are you?
Not excited at all.
Just another trip, huh?
No, not at all. No, it's really cool. I'm going to be covering the Olympics, so we're going to be focusing on the Louisiana contingent, the LSU contingent of athletes, and try to bring you all those stories and working on stories right now leading up to the games. But yeah, as you said, Mondo Duplantis just basically has to show up. He's the world record holder, and he just broke his own world record for the 8th time in a meet in China, so 20 feet 5.5. I interviewed his brothers. An aside real quick. Andreas, who was also a pole vaulter at LSU, and Antoine, who is the LSU all-time leading hitter. They both work for Marucci now, and I went to talk to them at the Marucci headquarters down the street from us the other day, and I asked Andreas, how high can he go, do you think? He said he could get to 21 feet, which is just astounding.
It's mind-blowing.
It's a high wire act for sure, an event. So, but only twice in the Olympics has someone broken the world record at the Olympics.
Yeah, you mentioned that stat to me the other day, which really shocked me. I just assumed Bubka would have done it 2 or 3 times.
Happened in 1920 and in 1980. And neither of those.
1980.
It was a Polish.
It certainly wasn't an American. We know that.
It was an American in 1920, but it was a Polish pole vaulter whose name I cannot even attempt to pronounce on the air. But Kristen Nuss and Perryn Keys, they're the number 2 team in the world. They are not officially on yet, but they've amassed enough points where they are in. So I don't know why they don't just make it official, but that'll come in about a month. And they just finished second in a big tournament down in Brazil. Aaliyah Finnegan, LSU gymnast, who won the NCAA floor title and, of course, was the anchor on beam that clinched the national championship for LSU. She was going to represent the Philippines. A similar situation to Mondo, where she's from the United States. She's from Kansas City, but her mother is from the Philippines, and so she is eligible to represent them at the games. And then a couple of other swimmers, Jerry Rebar, I love that name, from Croatia, and Jovan Lekic from Bosnia and Herzegovina. They're both LSU swimmers. They're going to go. And Hella Tuxen, wasn't able to totally confirm that, but she should be on the team, a diver from Norway. Now we've got a bunch of trials coming up, and this is where it's going to get interesting for some people. Connor McLean, another LSU gymnast, the SEC beam champion. She was the U.S. national champion 2 years ago in the biggest U.S. meet. That was the last time she competed in elite. She's trying to make the U.S. team, which is only the hardest team in the world to make in any sport. Then we have a bunch of other track people: Aaliyah Hobbs, Javon Harrison, of course, Sha'Carri Richardson. Again, you assume Sha'Carri Richardson, the world champion in the 100, to make it, but you got to make it on time.
Listen, if the Olympic trials are going on and you have the flu.
Yeah,
that's a tough break, but or if you false start twice, coming out of the blocks and you get DQ'd, you never know.
And an event like the 100, and she's also probably going to do a relay. She may try to run another.
She's doing 4x1, right?
Yeah, and she may try to run the 200 or something like that as well. So multiple ways for Sha'Carri to get on the team, but it's U.S. track trials are no joke.
Yes, that's right.
It's top three, and that's it. So, so a bunch of those athletes from LSU we expect to make it through. Maggie McNeil, you mentioned, she's in the Canadian swimming trials next week. And then Brooks Curry, we can't forget about him, now a former LSU swimmer who's training professionally. And Neil Skupski, I'd throw his name in. And Neil Skupski, a former LSU tennis player from Great Britain, won the Wimbledon men's doubles title last year.
Right.
And now that was with a teammate from another country, so he's got to find a British teammate to go to compete with in Paris. But I would expect that we're going to see him at Roland Garros.
It didn't occur to me, but of course, why else would why would it be anywhere else if you're going to be in Paris?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Well, let's. So there's plenty. We've got a LSU baseball may or may not take us deep into the summer, but if they don't, we've got plenty to look forward to in terms of stuff happening in the summer when it's usually dead. So everybody's looking forward to the Olympics. I know that some people don't get jazzed up about it until it's there, and we can fill an airplane hangar with all the issues that any one individual might have with the IOC. But I'll be the first to tell you that when the games actually start up themselves, particularly track, which I'm a big track and field fan, you get to the second week, it's tough to beat.
It's when people pay attention.
Yeah.
It was a funny aside. Antoine Twani he's director of professional sales for Marucci. So he had gone to Chicago recently, where another former LSU baseball player will be making his major league debut on Saturday.
Correct,
Paul Skeens for the Pittsburgh Pirates against the Chicago Cubs. What took so long? But he said he was on a plane talking to someone and mentioned he was Mondo's brother and stuff. He said, "Oh, is he still competing?" And he said, with great restraint, Twani had to say, "Yes, he just set a world record, last week."
By the way, you and I have talked about this, but how would you like to be Antoine Duplantis, all-time hits leader at LSU? This is LSU, the LSU baseball program. It's not some mid-level MAC baseball program. How would you like to be Antoine Duplantis and be the worst athlete in your family?
They're all amazing athletes. Yeah. For people who don't know, mom and dad, Greg and Helena, were track athletes at LSU. There's three brothers, Andreas, Twani, and Mondo, and then their younger sister is on the LSU track team right now. She's a pole vaulter.
Right.
They can all pole vault. Yeah. Even Antoine, I said, "What's your PR?" He said, 14.5 or something like that.
That's ridiculous.
Not bad.
That's ridiculous.
Not bad.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, they're an insane athletic family. It's just off the charts.
Yeah, we'll get to this certainly, I'm sure, as we go down to the summer games. But you and I were talking off air about how you until you actually really start thinking about it, and then once you do, you say, absolutely, yeah, you're right. That sort of quietly pole vaulting, you have to have the widest array of skills, I think, maybe more so than any, You've got to be strong upper body, lower body. You've got to be fast. You've got to have great hand-eye coordination. You got to have all these things to do everything just right.
Great concentration.
You got to be flexible.
Flexible.
That's right. Yeah.
Great concentration. I asked Andreas. It takes the same number of 20 steps. Same. You kind of figure that, but you don't really watch it. But same number of steps on every run, and then the pole.
Lowering that pole
They're different
while
poles.
you're running.
And we're getting to. I'll write in the story I'm going to be doing next week on Mondo his technique to try to keep the pole from oscillating too much. Yeah, he's got a special technique that gives him. I don't know why more people don't do it the way he described it, but anyway, it's a tremendous number of skill, and then just having the guts to get up there, 20 feet off the ground. Climb a ladder that's 20 feet high,
and then look down.
Yeah, and then look down. Yeah,
it's something else. It really is something else.
We should also, before we get out of here, we should also mention Haley Van Lith. She's got a chance to.
Yes,
she does.
She's got a chance to earn one of the 4 spots on the Team USA 3v3 Olympic team that's going to be headed to Paris.
She was on the World Cup team last year that won the gold medal in Vienna, and so you figure she's got a great shot. I think she's on the team with who was the center from Stanford?
Cameron Brink,
and it's going to be interesting how. So that's got to play in her favor. She's done everything they asked her. Of course, she's now at TCU, but it's going to be an interesting place. And if I can throw in one thing about Paris, the city, they're blending the history and the culture. The beach volleyball is going to be right by the Eiffel Tower, their stadium. 3-on-3 basketball will be on an outdoor court at the Place de la Concorde, which happens to be where Marie Antoinette was beheaded.
No kidding.
Yes, that's where they're going to compete.
Let them eat cake. Let them win a medal and then
there'll
eat
be cake after the medal round. Yes.
Moving on. Before we get out of here, we do have to discuss LSU baseball at Alabama. We've obviously had Koki Riley here on the podcast several times the last couple of weeks. Huge weekend for LSU. Couldn't finish off the sweep. They ran out of pitching pretty fast there on Sunday, but 2 big wins over number 1 Texas A&M, which gives them a shot. It gives them a shot. It depends on who you listen to and depends on which selection committee
projection
and which year, you look at this year, a certain year's selection committee, they valued this over that and things of that nature. But I would, for everything, I would sort of, like we talked about, 13 is the absolute minimum. 13 conference win is the absolute minimum you can have and have decent hopes of trying to get into the NCAA tournament. They need to go 4-2 over their final 6 games to get to 13 wins. Would really be good if you could get to 14 wins and then you feel really good about your prospects. But if you get to 13, maybe make some noise once you get to Hoover in the SEC tournament. And by the way, you've got a pretty decent RPI. It's in the 20s now, and you're LSU, and that does count for something in college baseball. Yeah. So listen, they go to Alabama this week. Alabama's no joke. They're in the top 25 RPI. 6:30 p.m. 6 o'clock Friday, 4 o'clock Saturday, 1 o'clock Sunday, and then they finish up with Ole Miss, which is in a very similar position that they're in. They've got to win 4 out of 6 probably. Well, they have to win 4 out of 6 for sure to get to 13. 5 out of 6 would be something that they haven't done to this point this season, right. But that would put them in great shape. Rab, you saw these guys last weekend. What do you make out of all this? How do they stack up? What are their chances?
They're playing better of late for sure, and obviously the A&M win is. That was at home, but it was a good series win. As you said, they ran out of pitching on Sunday and lost 14-4, but still a series win against the a team that's a lock to be a top 8 national seed in Texas A&M. But it's do or die. As Jay Johnson said going into the series, they're in playoff mode already, and that included there was a big wins they just scraped by against Northwestern State on Tuesday night, where they got the 2-run home run from Bear Jones late in the game to pull that one out, because that would have been a bad loss to a team whose RPI is in the 170s or something like that. You mentioned 13 wins, and the 13 wins in the SEC is no guarantee.
That's not a given. No,
that only about 40% of the time, maybe not quite that. A team with 13 wins makes the NCAA tournament, but they have the RPI, and now they've got some quality wins to put on the wall. If they don't get to 13 wins, they have to win the SEC tournament, and I give them no shot of that with the lack of pitching that they can depend on. So it's 2 out of 3 at Alabama, and if you only take 1 at Alabama, you got to sweep Ole Miss, which they haven't swept anyone this year. So it's most of the projections that we're talking about have LSU first 4 out or right on the cusp, not in. So they've definitely have work to do. And sometimes I wonder if the name LSU helps them, or it's like so much is expected of LSU in baseball that they might be held to a higher standard by the committee members.
I might be found to be completely wrong on this, but I happen to think that in this particular situation, that the name LSU does them good, because if you're the NCAA, you want them in. You want them traveling to regional X and spending a little bit of money, and they're for whatever this means for TV and online streaming. They all see that the SEC network was surprised by the number of people who, the first year that they did streaming, SEC Network Plus, they were surprised by all the LSU fans who tuned in, found a way to start working their smart TVs and things of that nature. So
the fans travel as well.
They travel, that's right. Yep. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you remember, listen, it's a small stadium and everything, but this is going all the way back to 2010 when they went to UCLA, had to go to UCLA for the regionals, and I'll be damned if there wasn't a small but strong contingent traveling all the way out to Los Angeles, which must have just blown away the UCLA fans who are used to putting 200 people in the stands, right?
Exactly.
But they were there, and then the Jackie Robinson Stadium, they had to install extra porta potties and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken, and temporary stands and all that. So if you're the NCAA selection community or the NCAA in general, I think you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I hadn't thought about that, Rab, that maybe if you're, in a given year, if you're LSU and you're sort of on the bubble in terms of hosting, or on the bubble of getting an NCAA super regional or something like that, being one of the top 8 seeds. I hadn't thought about that, but I would still think that they would probably get the benefit of the doubt because, the NCAA doesn't want to say no to money, I would think. But maybe you're right. Maybe they.
And the flip side of that is they do get in. It's not the team they had last year, obviously, but if you're Indiana State or East Carolina or somebody else who's hosting one of these first 16 regionals,
there's going to be a collective groan.
Yeah, they're great. They sent LSU here as a 3 seed. Thanks a lot.
And of course, the rallying cry for LSU and its fans, should they make it into the regionals, the rallying cry, of course, would be, "Hey, look what Ole Miss did that one year. Barely made it in. They were the last team in and went all the way to Omaha and won it." Do we expect that to happen? No.
No.
But hey, look, that is.
But I haven't canceled my rooms yet in Omaha.
Yeah, of course.
I haven't canceled the rooms just yet.
Looking forward to a nice fat steak. I know you. Well, I'm sorry, but we have to keep Rab gainfully employed, and that's one of the things that we have to deal with is his travels and his food recommendations and things of that nature. I will not allow you. If you go to incidentally, if you go to Paris and you go to the damn Cheesecake Factory, you're getting fired.
Il n'est pas de Cheesecake Factory dans Paris. I did make him go to one in Albany, though. We did go to one in Albany, New York, for the regional.
You go get some good Polish food or something, man.
Easter Sunday, nothing was open, so I was like, all right.
We'll give you half a pass on it. I can't. You know what? I can't say anything because I met my wife on a 4th of July. There was nothing else open, so we went to Chili's, and she was working there. Next thing you know, we're
that's cool.
Married 20 years. So. We will wrap it up there because I'm sure nobody cares about our personal lives and our eating habits. So we will leave it at that. We will come back Monday with a fresh episode of the LSU Sports Insider. Again, as always, please join the party. Please subscribe to The Advocate. To do that, you go to theadvocate.com/subscribe and sign up for our LSU newsletter. As we say, there's always something going on at LSU, even in the summertime when it's starting to get slow. Well, we have the Olympics this year, so there'll be plenty to catch up on. Get all the headlines delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up for the LSU newsletter at theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. We are here every Monday and Thursday, as I say, on the LSU Sports Insider on all our social channels, specifically the YouTube channel LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. If you search for LSU Tigers on NOLA.com on YouTube, should be able to find it. You should be able to find the channel, subscribe to it. You'll never miss another episode. You will catch us live on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you don't catch us live, you can always catch us after the fact. And of course, we are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever other finer podcasts are found. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple if you like, if you would. And please tell a friend. That'll help us find more LSU fans. It'll help more LSU fans find us. Again, LSU Sports Insider on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Reed Darcey, Scott Rabalais, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen. And for Amelia Cotton behind the glass, Perryn Keys here. This is the LSU Sports Insider.